A link down below as always if you want to read this on your own, and the patch notes are the same regardless of what platform you play on. Major changes included in the latest update: additional elements added. Added an option to turn the camera auto-rotate function on and off. Added some event phases for the NPC patches. Balance adjustments to increase the Colossal Sword, Colossal Weapons attack speed, and lowered their recovery time. Jump attack not included. Increased the two-handed attack damage of Colossal Swords / Colossal Weapons, jump attack not included. Increased physical block rate and guard boost of the Colossal Sword, Colossal Weapons, Great Sword, Great Hammer, Great Axe, Great Spear, and Halberd weapon classes. Increased the damage of Grafted Blade Greatsword, increased the damage of Devour Scepter, decreased the scaling of status effect buildup from spells and incantations of Albinoric Staff and Dragon Communion Seal, decreased the effect of Great Shield Talisman for weapons with a high block rate, shortened the length of the Madness Afflicted animation. Give this video a thumbs down and I'll make sure the length is shortened on, okay? Lowered the speed of Madness build-up recovery, slightly increased FP and stamina growth rate at lower levels. Players will need to perform any of the following actions for the changes to be reflected. This is required only once. New characters created after this update will not require this action. You're going to have to level up, activate Godric's Great Rune, re-equipping any equipment, armor, talisman, which grants bonus stat to either strength, dexterity, vigor, endurance, intelligence, faith, or arcane. Other enemy and weapon balance changes. So what's interesting about this is I'm max level. So I guess I can't do this? I don't know. That's confusing. Sorcery and Incantation, upward adjustments. Crystal Barrage increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time. Gavel of Hema, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time, allows the caster to more easily withstand enemies' attack while casting. Shatter Earth, increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time, allows the caster to more easily withstand enemy attacks while casting. Rock Blaster, decreased the recovery time, again, for the same reasons. Thop's Barrier, increased the area of effect and slightly increased the effect duration. Renala's Full Moon, increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time. Rani's Dark Moon, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Carrion Greatsword, increased cast speed at lower dexterity. Magma Shot, decreased FP cost and increased the cast speed. Rolling Magma, increased the cast speed and decreased the time until the magma explodes. Gelmir's Fury, slightly decreased the random nature of projectiles range and increased the damage of Lava Pool. Increased the hitbox. Rickard's Rancor, decreased FP cost. Oracle Bubbles, increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time. Great Oracular Bubble, increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time. Briars of Sin, decreased recovery time, increased blood loss buildup on enemy. Briars of Punishment, decreased recovery time, increased blood loss buildup on enemy. Explosive Ghost Flame, decreased FP cost and recovery time. Tibia's Summon, increased the damage and cast speed. Aspects of the Crucible Tail, decreased FP and stamina cost. Aspect of the Crucible Horns, decreased FP and stamina cost. Increased the cast speed, increased the distance traveled when not charged, and made it easier to cause enemies to flinch when charged. Elden Stars, increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time. Black Blade, decreased stamina consumption and decreased recovery time. Discus of Light, decreased the FP cost, increased the damage and cast speed. Triple Rings of Light, increased the damage. Radagon's Rings of Light, decreased the FP cost, increased damage and cast speed, decreased recovery time. Lightning Strike, decreased stamina cost, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Hound Bolt, increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time. Ancient Dragon's Lightning Spear, decreased FP and stamina cost, but increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time. It allows the caster to more easily withstand enemy attacks while casting. Ancient Dragon's Lightning Strike, decreased recovery time. Lanciax Glaive, decreased FP and stamina cost, increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time, again to allow the caster to better take an ass whooping. Fortisax Lightning Spear, decreased the FP and stamina cost, increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time to allow the caster, exactly, Frozen Lightning Spear. Decreased the stamina cost, increased the cast speed, and decreased recovery time. Allows the caster... Exactly. Death's Lightning. Decreased FP cost. Increased the duration of death, accumulating smoke. Oh Flame. Increased the damage. Giant Flame, Take Thee. Decreased stamina cost. Flame of the Fell God, rather. Decreased the FP cost and increased the damage. Whirl O Flame. Increased damage, decreased recovery time. Burn O Flame. Increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Black Flame. Increased the damage, and the spell can break enemy's guard more easily. Scoring Black Flame. Decreased the FP cost and recovery time. Increased the attack range and area of effect. Black Flame Ritual. Reduced the FP cost and increased damage. Gurak's Beast Claw. Increased the damage and decreased recovery time. Blood Flame Talons. Decreased FP cost and increased cast speed. Decreased recovery time. Blood Boon. Increased damage, increased cast speed, and decreased effect startup time. Decreased recovery time. Pest Threads. Decreased the stamina cost. Scarlet Aeonia. Increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. It allows the caster, to more easily withstand an ass whooping. Unendurable Frenzy. Increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time, decreased the random nature of projectiles range, and increased the madness buildup on enemies. Inescapable Frenzy. Increased the cast speed. Placidusac's Ruin. Decreased FP, stamina cost, and recovery time. Dragon Claw. Decreased FP, stamina cost, and recovery time, and made it easier to cause enemies to flinch when charged. Dragon Maw. Decreased FP, stamina cost, recovery time, and increased cast speed, and made it easier to cause enemies to flinch when charged. Greyol's Roar. Decreased FP, stamina cost, recovery time. Upward and downward adjustments. Adula's Moonblade. Decreased the power of single cast and improved performance so that the blades and frost hit more consistently and continuously. Increased the cast speed at lower dexterity. Flame Fall Upon Them. Decreased the damage of single cast and improved the performance so that it hits the enemy multiple times. Decreased the FP cost. Howl of Shabriri. Decreased the madness buildup on the enemy. Increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Downward adjustment. Swarm of Flies. Decreased the blood loss buildup on enemy. The Flame of Frenzy. Decreased madness buildup on enemy. Frenzied Burst. Decreased the madness buildup on the enemy. Weapon skill. Upward adjustments. Lion's Claw. Increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time. Kick. Increased the cast speed. Hora Luke's Earthshaker. Increased the cast speed on follow-up input, decreased recovery time. Troll's Roar. Decreased the stamina cost, increased the cast speed on follow-up input, increased distance travel. Giant Hunt. Decreased the recovery time. Storm Assault. Decreased recovery time. Carrion Greatsword. Increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time. Increased the damage when charged and made it easier to cause enemies to flinch. Carrion Grandeur. Increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time, increased the damage when charged, and made it easier to cause enemies to flinch. Gravitas. Increased the cast speed. Flaming Strike. Increased the travel distance of a stepping cleave in a strong attack. Black Flame Tornado. Added hitbox to weapon when spinning, and added a window to roll during the attack to cancel the animation. Lightning Slash. Increased the cast speed, added a hitbox to the stomp animation. Sacred Blade. Increased the cast speed. Sacred Ring of Light. Increased the cast speed. Poisonous Mist. You got it. Increased the cast speed. Poison Moth. Flight. Increased the cast speed and decreased the recovery time. Ice Spear. Added a hitbox to the weapon spinning animation. Chilling Mist. Increased cast speed. Assassin's Gambit. Increased cast speed. Shield Bash. Increased the cast speed. Shield Crash. Decreased stamina cost, but increased the cast speed. Blade of Gold. Decreased stamina cost, increased the cast speed, and decreased the recovery time. Blade of Death. Increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time. The Golden Tempering. Decreased FP cost and increased the cast speed, increased the effect duration. Last Rites. Increased the cast speed. Mists of Slumber. Increased the cast speed. Eochade's Dancing Blade increased the travel distance, added a window to roll during the attack to cancel the animation. Unblockable Blade increased the cast speed with the weapon-coated sword. Alabaster's Lord's Pull increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time, added a window to roll during the attack once again to cancel the animation. Establish Order decreased recovery time and increased cast speed on follow-up input, increased damage, and made it easier to cause enemies to flinch. Moonlight Greatsword decreased the FP cost, increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time, increased the frost buildup effect during the skill duration. Wave of Gold decreased the FP cost, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Wolf's Assault increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time. The Queen's Black Flame increased the cast speed, added a window to roll during the attack to cancel the animation. Dynast's Finesse decreased stamina cost. Flowing Form decreased stamina cost. Death Flare increased cast speed. Onyx Lord's Repulsion increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time, added a window roll during the attack once again to cancel the animation. Magma Guillotine decreased stamina cost, increased cast speed, decreased recovery time on follow-up input. Cursed Blood Slice increased the cast speed, decreased recovery time. Ice Lightning Sword increased the cast speed, added a hitbox to the stomp animation. Rosa's Summons decreased the recovery time. I Command Thee, Kneel increased the cast speed, including follow-up input, added a window to roll again during the attack to cancel the animation. Gold Breaker decreased FP cost, increased cast speed, and decreased recovery time. Familial Rancor added a window to roll during the attack to cancel the animation. Nebula increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time with the weapon Bastard's Stars. Regal Beastclaw increased the cast speed. Devourer of Worlds increased the cast speed. Regal Roar decreased recovery time. Spear Call Ritual decreased the recovery time. Ancient Lightning Spear decreased FP cost and increased the cast speed. Allows player to more easily withstand an ass whooping from the enemy while casting. Great Serpent Hunt decreased the recovery time and increased the damage. It allows players to more easily withstand attacks from enemies. Frenzy Flame Thrust decreased FP cost, decreased recovery time, decreased the madness buildup on self. Blood Boon Ritual increased the cast speed. Miquella's Ring of Light increased the cast speed. Sea of Magma increased the cast speed, decreased recovery time, added a window once again to roll during the attack to cancel the animation. Flame Dance decreased the stamina cost, decreased recovery time, added a window again to roll during the attack to cancel the animation. Storm Kick decreased stamina cost. Bear Witness increased the cast speed. Upward and downward adjustments. Thundercloud Form decreased the damage when not charged, decreased FP cost, increased the cast speed, and decreased recovery time. Bug fixes. Fixed a bug where the damage of Inescapable Frenzy was affected by right-hand weapon, or where the damage of the weapon art's carry and retaliation was increased by weapon and status and the effect was not displayed correctly during online multiplayer. Or a bug where the animation when inflicted with blood loss and frostbite was bigger than originally planned. Or a bug where during the character appearance change menu and some parameter changes were sometimes not reflected. Fixed a bug that prevented a dialogue from appearing when executing leave on some items. Fixed a bug that allowed unauthorized items to be passed to another player. Or a bug in multiplayer that prevented grace to be registered on the map if it was found just before the player is summoned. Or where sometimes prevented the mechanic of Renala Queen of the Full Moon fight from working properly during co-op multiplayer. Or a bug that sometimes prevented the player from entering the boss area after defeating Morgoth, the Omen King. Fixed a bug that prevented Edgar the Revenger and Festering Fingerprint Vike from invading after defeating all the bosses in Liurnia of the Lake. The item Tonic of Forgetfulness can now be obtained at the Volcano Manor if the player wasn't able to obtain it due to quest progression. That's huge. Fixed a bug that caused the reduction of the runes due to NPC ghost talk when player died in Stormville Castle to occur at an unintended timing. Added a protective barrier to Millicent after helping her at Michaela's Halig tree, so she cannot be unintentionally killed. Fixed a bug that sometimes prevented the player from obtaining the reward after defeating the Dung Eater, or a bug that sometimes prevented the player from progress Diallo's questline, or a bug that sometimes prevented the player from duplicating Remembrance at the Walking Mausoleum, or a bug that prevented the player from inputting consecutive attacks when dual-wielding thrusting swords, or a bug that caused the scythe to lose blood loss effect if poison affinity is applied to the weapon, or a bug where the damage of the iron greatsword was lower than expected when an affinity is applied, or a bug that caused FP consumption to increase when the player cast Night Comet with charged. Fixed a bug that caused the default key setting on the keyboard for weapon skill left control to not be set, obviously on PC only. Fixed a bug in the Steam version where the history of players who played multiplayer was not displayed correctly under certain circumstances. Increased online multiplayer stability. Fixed a bug that caused incorrect sounds to be played under certain circumstances, or that caused some places on the map to have incorrect visual and hitbox, or that causes some enemies to have incorrect visual and behavior, or that causes some armor to have incorrect stats. Text fix. Other performance improvements and bug fixes. That is it. So there you have it. If you liked the video, go ahead, give it a thumbs up. It does greatly help support the channel with the algorithm. You didn't like the video, go ahead, give it a thumbs down, and I'll make sure money is taken out of your bank account and dipped into my PayPal so I can afford this gorgeous Gibson Les Paul guitar. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, naturally that would be great, but if not, thanks for stopping by anyways. Take care, and maybe I'll see some of you in the next video. Bye for now.